Hello, this is Batavia Mayor Jeff Schielke speaking to you on Friday, October 16th, 2020. And as I think I indicated last week, these days are proving to be challenging and troubling times in Batavia on a variety of fronts. And I try to come up with a positive spin on these presentations, so if you'll bear with me, hopefully I'm going to talk about some positive things that will be happening in the community in the next few weeks and kind of focus everybody's interest in that regard. Let's start though with the negative. Obviously there is a lot of people who are confining themselves to their houses because of the corona issue. We are told we had a couple of our businesses made a decision to temporarily close themselves down for a couple of days to go through a cleaning of their facilities. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to start any rumors or cause anybody, but if the door's locked, I would suggest in a business that you may check a few days later and it may very well be reopened. So I'll get that one out of the way. The other thing I wanted to share with is that we've been literally pulling our hair out, I'll describe it, here at the city with a large number of electrical power outages that we've experienced in town over the last several months. We've been specifically very hard hit on the southwest side of town. And every time we've been hit, and it's happened several times this past week on the southeast side, it was always the same reason that caused the power outage. And let me just say right up front, it is not because of inferior equipment or lack of maintenance or anything done on the part of the city that is caused the outages. What has caused the outages is windstorms, and particularly when the windstorms come in and they intermix with these very large older trees that we have in Batavia. The tree limbs start breaking and they start hitting the electrical lines, and on Union Avenue over the last couple of weeks we've had several misfortunes down there because we have a large number of older trees, some of which were planted when Bellevue Place was originally placed down there in the 1850s, and those trees are very old and they're breaking and coming down. We had 2 outages this past week that were attributed to that, and I know we've had a couple previously within the last 2 or 3 weeks. So right now, as I sit here speaking, I know our electrical utility is down with tree trimmers and all kinds of folks down on Union Avenue trying to reconfigure the tree limbs in the street, and we've taken down a couple of trees, and we're trying to protect our electrical system because that is one of the main feeder lines that runs into the southwest side of Batavia. So please bear with us. It not only has happened on that part of town, but in others where the tree limbs came out. I recently talked with Frank Sopp, our city arborist, and he recalled that in the early 1950s, about 53, 54, Batavia was struck by what they called the Dutch elm disease, which literally killed thousands of elm trees that had been earlier planted in Batavia. And that was the start of the Batavia Tree Commission, which was a very good idea. And under a leadership of a number of prominent citizens, we went out and kind of reforested and replanted Batavia. And from that, we now have a crop of trees that were planted in the early 1950s, all of which are now probably around 75 years of age, and that puts them into the vulnerable case of those limbs starting to break and come down, or the trees in total come down. I just talked to a resident on South Van Buren Street the other day who had experienced significant damage to their home because of a tree coming down onto their roof and their porch. So there are a lot of sad circumstances in Batavia regarding trees coming down, and specifically on our electrical system and on homes. And so I just wanted to let everybody know we're trying to deal with it the best we can. And as a reminder, I just want to let everybody know that leaf collection will begin on the east side of the river next Monday on October 19th on the east side of the river, and then the following week on the west side of the river on October 26th. And we will be picking up all the leaves that are raked out to the parkway in front. We ask you not to rake them into the street, but leave them on the parkway in front of your house, and we will pick them up. One of the big events that's going to happen at City Hall next week is the Kane County Clerk is bringing his team down to our City Council chambers, and we will be opening the City Hall up for early voting for the general election on November the 3rd. And the dates of the City Hall being open is going to be from October 19th to the 23rd, each day between 9 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. And then the week of October 26th through the 29th, again, it'll be in City Hall from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And we are anticipating, because we are in conversations I've had with a number of people throughout the Chicagoland area, some of whom are students of government trends, are telling me that there's indications that we may be experiencing the largest vote in the history of the United States for the November election. And from what I've seen in a couple of visits that I've had to make to the King County Government Center for other things I've been involved with up there, there have been lines at the county clerk's office where the early voting has been taking place. And we anticipate that that will also be the case in Batavia in the next couple of weeks. So one suggestion that the staff and I would have is that all the voters are going to be admitted to the front south door of the City Hall, which generally is locked because it goes right into the council chambers. But if you're going to early vote, come around the building. If you parked to the west of the building and some of the parking that's there, walk to the front of the building, and you're going to have to go in that front door to get received by the county clerk's people. And then after you vote, you have to go back out that door. We are hoping that some people will take advantage of the overflow parking opportunity that exists over on what I'll describe as the old Larson and Becker property, which is the city parking lot currently on North River Street between State and Spring Streets. And this should allow you to just park your car, come down, walk across the pedestrian bike bridge that's there, and you'll be right in the front of the City Hall near where the bulldog is and the bulldog statue, and you'll be able to go in that front door and do your voting. So that's the story with that one. We are also going to be encouraging everyone to kind of keep their eyes open for crime issues. We've continuously had a lot of hit and run crime, I will describe it, in Batavia, where people not from our community generally, but from outside, come in, and I've been told by the police that one of them described Batavia as a shopping center of affluence, where any car or garage door they could find open, they could generally run inside for a quick second, see if there's anything of any value, grab the item, and come running back out. And we know there's been instances when they have searched driveways in both sides of town and pulled on the doors of cars that have been sitting in driveways to see if they're open. If they are, they'll go in and help themselves to anything they can find inside. The same holds true with open garage doors. So we are encouraging everybody to please lock your garage door or your car door, and don't leave anything open at night, or even during the early evenings that we've been hit all kinds of times with this. So again, those are kind of the community alerts that we would like to put out. The other thing, I was called this morning by Margaret Perot, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce, and she's telling me that they are not currently accepting at the Chamber, and you can go on the Chamber's website, I think, and get addresses or information, nominations for the Batavia Citizen of the Year Award, which will be awarded by the Chamber at, next year. And there will be a committee of former Citizens of the Year, or who are chosen to come in and make a decision as to who the newest one is going to be. But the Chamber is now accepting nominations for the Citizen of the Year, and we would like to encourage that activity. The other thing that I'd like to do is kind of a combination of my little history presentation that I try to do with these, is I'd like to talk for a moment about Batavia Avenue's business district as it applies to Batavia. And we've got some interesting history with that. I've got some photographs. Here's one taken of the South Batavia Avenue district in about 1916, and this is what it looked like then. And as you can, if you look at the picture that's going to be on the screen here, there's two automobiles parked there. There is two guys on bicycles, and there are two horse-drawn wagons on the other side, on the west side of the street. This picture was taken at First Street looking south, and right down the middle of the street runs the old Roar Elgin streetcar that used to run from those 2 points through the Fox River Valley. So That really is a momentous moment of Batavia history. Ironically, almost all the buildings that are in this picture have been moved, burned down, destroyed, whatever. And about the only thing that's still standing on the street is down the building at the corner, the northwest corner of Batavia Avenue and Main Street, kitty corner from the Calvary Episcopal Church and south of Moss Funeral Home, or excuse me, north of Moss Funeral Home, where the construction is now undergoing, and where the DuPage cabinet store is. That's about the only thing that's really left in this picture, it looks like. So again, Batavia changes. Along South Batavia Avenue, there was another memorable occasion. This was when we had an A&P grocery store, which arrived in Batavia about 1946 and stayed there till about 1962, I believe, is when it ended. And then the building was purchased by four gentlemen who turned it into a restaurant called the Four Kings. And later the property was purchased by the then Batavia Bank under the leadership of President Bob Riley, and they bought the building and tore it all down and built the first edition of the bank there. And there is still, that was later sold to Chase Bank, and there is still a bank building there, although we are told it is about to be destroyed in demolition, because there are plans to redevelop that entire side of the northeast corner of Batavia Avenue and Main Street, where the construction is currently going on. There are some plans to build some interesting things there in the near future, and we'll talk about that in another date. But one of the genuine staples of Batavia Avenue was Avenue Motors Chevrolet dealership, which Scoop Clark began at the corner of Houston and Batavia Avenue in 1930. And then he subsequently bought Kitty Corner on the northwest corner and put his used car lot in at Houston and Batavia Avenue in that location. And that's where the drive-in restaurants have been, starting with Burger King and now with the Mexican restaurant that's there. And so we've had a lot of changes here, but this is what Avenue Motors looked like when it was still there. As you know, the building is still there. It's in a financial conversation by its ownerships now, and I'm not sure what happened to this building. There was a lot of issues about it that have still to be resolved as far as environmental things and of those natures. So we shall see what we shall see, but there is I think some interesting things happening, and one of the things that's happening on Batavia Avenue is the reconstruction of the stretch of it from First Street down to Main Street and then going south down to Elm Street. And if you've been down there, you know half of it's closed. We're installing some new utility lines in the ground down there. And the group of folks that are energetically being the businesses down there are being very supportive and cooperative with us, and they certainly have every right to be concerned. We are working feverishly to try to get this thing kind of wrapped up before the winter comes. We'd like to get Main Street reopened for traffic, and I met with the contractors last week, and they told me that by mid-November they had hopes of having it pretty well at least fixed for the winter, so people could drive down it and have holiday fairs and whatever have you with no problem. Same with Batavia Avenue. The Episcopal Church has talked to me several times recently about their concerns and need to get it straightened out, because right by them it's all tore up, both in front and on the Main Street side. We've poured the curbing down there now, and we're putting in the new sidewalks. And we have great hopes that that area will be kind of hopefully cleaned up and finished off in the next few days or a few weeks. Again, that was a tremendous project there, because we had to go into the ground and specifically replace a whole bunch of sanitary sewer and stormwater pipe, much of which was a combined system where all the water from both of those generators went into one pipe. That has proved to be very problematic for many Batavia homeowners in the last few years, where the water would get so confined in the pipes because there was more water coming in than there was capacity to move it, and we'd start backing it up into basements of houses. And so this was a problem that went all the way down to Morton Street, and those of you who live down there or driven by, you've known that the last couple of years, we've been down working on Morton and Blaine and Walnut and South Jefferson Street and Union Avenue. And now we're up to Main Street, where this all kind of connects itself and takes the water down to the sewer plant. So we've unseparated everything. It's been a multi-million-dollar experience. I am pleased that we were able to procure a federal grant from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning for $2.5 million to pay for the actual construction of the new street from Water Street out to Van Noordtreek. And so that's not going to be on the backs of Batavia, and most of the utility work is not on property tax bills. It's all been on our reserves and on your utility bills we have been charging for a number of years for needed improvements we knew we were going to have to make. So Batavia is a community that has really been very tore up this year. I apologize if there's been any inconveniences, but we do have a lot of progress being made. And kind of the final thing I'd like to talk about is that as we keep having to announce that we have to postpone or not have such things as the Christmas tree lighting the weekend of Thanksgiving. There's been several large programs planned down at the Peg Bond Center that had to be turned around. The Batavia Community Band this year never got a chance to perform a concert because everything that they traditionally are scheduled to do was canceled, but hopefully that'll turn around. I am told by Batavia Main Street that they are going to host an event on the October 24th, and they're going to have what they call a creepy crawl. And the creepy crawl is going to be you make a purchase at participating shops and get a stamp to your passport, and they give you a passport. You fill in 11 squares in the passport. The Main Street square is free, and turn it into the Main Street office at 5 East Wilson Street by November 6th to be entered into a drawing, which will then, the winner will receive $200 of chamber bucks, which can be used in many of our downtown businesses for Christmas shopping or your personal needs or whatever you want to do. So we are trying to encourage people to come down and have some socially distanced trick-and-treating fun. And as we've already announced, we are going to allow for trick-or-treating on October 31st from 4 till 7. We're asking that you not distribute any candy, and by asking kids to put their hands into a bag that either you hand them one each at a time or you put them out on a table in front of your house and let the kids take a treat off of the table. We're trying to be as sensitive because, as you've all heard, our numbers as a region are going back up, and I don't want to see us have to get more into restrained activity than we are already. And we've already been there once, and we kind of got ourselves out of it because Batavia's numbers have traditionally, through this whole bad experience, been good in comparison to many of our surrounding areas. So today I'm here just to ask for everybody's understanding and cooperation as we move forward in what is proving to be a very difficult period of time with all this stuff going on for the city council and myself. We are dealing with conversations the likes of which we've never had, and there's just a lot of sadness and bad news and stuff like that, and when you have to cancel all this stuff and you disappoint people in your lives and you're sorry for it, and so you just try to go on and make up and try to do the very best you can and kind of rebuilding the world around you. So hopefully we will soon be beyond all this and we will have ourselves back to normal. The one thing I will tell you is there are several groups, not in Batavia, but in other parts of the region, who are writing daily histories about the pandemic as it's impacted us and what were the actions taken and what worked and what didn't work and who violated it and who did a different thing and the whole bit. So this will be something that I'm sure will be published, and it'll be out there for future generations, and if it ever happens again, there should be a broad index of experiences that future local governments and state governments will be able to refer to as to how it should be done and what was done now that didn't work right. And so we're hopefully going to learn from this whole experience. So that's it for this week. I thank you all for listening, and I'll be back next week, and I promise on that one, we're going to have a very special historical presentation because there's a special anniversary that we'll be commemorating on that date. And it's going to include both some movie, film, and some photographs, in which I think many Batavians will quickly, if you're over 60 years of age, you probably will remember this event, and you will have some memories of it because most people in town participated in it. So I'll keep it at that, but it will be, I think, a memorable experience for many people to see what we're going to unfold here next Friday. So have a good week and stay safe, and again, thank you for your cooperation in the Corona pandemic, and we will go forth and try to overcome that in the very near term. Have a great week. Thank you.